Originally they're from South America, from the highlands. There's vicuna, alpaca, llama, and they're pack animals, so they can carry loads like donkeys. And they are grazers, not browsers, so they do eat the grass. Whereas the goats we used to have in England used to prefer the hedges, and we needed some sort of livestock to keep the grass down because it's a fire risk. They're easygoing, they don't like being handled, but they're very curious. So they're quite independent, but we find they're super at keeping wild animals at bay. They're very territorial. If the coyotes come around during the day, which isn't often, they will defend their land. They eat hay in the winter and grass in the summer, and we supplement that with a dairy ration. They do like bread, but you have to hold on to it because they don't like anything when it's gone on the ground. So they're very fussy. They like a manger, so we made them a manger. And what you do afterwards is just pick up the hay and put it back, and they'll eat it again, but they won't eat it from the ground. And so if the bread drops, they tend to very disdainfully leave it alone. As far as defending the land, they can spit, and they tend to spit the regurgitated grass, so it's green and slimy and smelly. And they basically run up and down their perimeter, and they can run much faster than a bear. They do stand sentinel, so when we had the bear at the cottonwood tree that we did see at night, the dogs were growling, so we came out onto the veranda, and you know exactly where the creature is because the alpacas will stand parallel to each other and try and stare it out, basically. They've grown, they live under our deck. They don't actually like going underneath, it's only when it's very cold weather or snow. They live under the deck, but now that they've grown, it's really not enough space. They don't like an enclosed place, it's not like a horse stable. They like to see outside. They like to be able to, they don't like to be cornered. I don't suppose any animal does. They like short grass. They don't really like it when it gets long. And when they were small, we were told people will think they haven't got enough grass because they really like it very short indeed, because I suppose it's sweeter at the bottom. We let them roam. They know the boundary lines. They don't try and cross them. If you put a rope up, a single strand rope, they won't cross it. So they're unlike cows who will barge through barbed wire if they want to get a particular vegetable crop. So when we need to corral them for shearing once a year, you get them in a smaller and smaller space by using a rope round a post, and if they're frightened they will duck under it, but again otherwise you just show them the way. Yeah, they were sheared 2 weeks ago now. Okay. And the shearer, he comes out for 6 weeks and does his rounds and then goes home, and we're the last stop. So if it's wet and you can't shear them, they don't get sheared. Yeah, he also checks their teeth and files them if he needs to. Well, actually he uses a grinder, but he didn't grind them this year. He didn't need to file them in any way, and then he checks their hooves. The first year they weren't sheared because they were small, and the second year when they were sheared there was a huge amount, relatively. But they didn't seem to overheat in the summer. I think it shields them. If they're sheared, they're more susceptible to sunburn, like a pig would be, without the layer of insulation. So it probably keeps them cool as well as keeping them warm in the winter. They, by habit, poo in the same places, so you haven't got to go round after them like you would with a horse, I think. And then we get the tractor in once a year, as close as we can with a bucket, and shovel the alpaca poo into the bucket, and that goes straight onto one of our compost heaps. And it takes about a year to degrade, that's all, and it becomes like a loamy soil. Yeah, there is a particular way. If you want to get hold of them, you hold them round the neck, so the neck is coming through your arm, and then they are very submissive, and then they kneel down.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so a bit like camels, I suppose. They're very easy to keep. They don't seem to have problems with hooves, worms, parasites, things that sheep commonly do. So there's a minimum of maintenance, which is useful. As far as medical examinations, we did have a vet out, but she didn't need to come back, really. In the evening, we always make sure they come in, just because we know they're around and safe, but they've got into the habit of knowing by the light that it's time to come in. And we do ask a neighbour if we go away for a few days, or one of our children, to keep an eye on them. But because they don't actually need the food, if for any reason you came back late and they didn't have their dairy ration, it wouldn't matter, because they have enough nutrients from, the natural sources. Well, the fact that they poo in the same place, I didn't know. And I was pleasantly surprised by that. They're very curious. They have beautiful, huge eyelashes, and they look they have good expression, so they tell you things just by their expressions. If they're not happy, they lay their ears back, for example. They're not noisy. And the softness of them.